shit.
Shit.
Here we go again. I've just been like seeing and hearing so many, like, obviously we talked about TikTok last week.
Yeah.
Just seeing that, like, that intro, like, shit, here we go again.
Yeah.
And then going into that.
Yeah, San Andreas.
Yeah.
Yeah, GTA.
But then, it goes into like a real thirst trap type TikTok. Like, that does that, and then it's like this. Yeah.
Right, I haven't seen that meme yet.
There you go. That's what I mean. Like TikTok, you end up in your particular little world of TikTok, don't you?
That's it. Yeah, never the two shall meet.
Yeah, the more you get down one road of the algorithm. Yeah. So there you go. Anyway, I've been seeing that one come up heaps.
Dude, yeah, I've been actively, so I've been in the opposite. I've been actively trying to separate myself from it just for the last like kind of week or two, like TikTok and Instagram, because I've just been really busy lately. Yeah. And I just got a treadmill the other day, picked up
a bargain, I hear.
Bargain on Gumtree. I got a freebie from someone that was just in a hurry to move out. So I made a little pact with myself just for the next couple of weeks of every time I get tempted to pull out the socials, if I'm going to do it on the treadmill.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Which also gives me the out of, if I don't want to get on the treadmill, I just can't pull my phone out.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh,
we'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah. I mean, have you got the missus like pulling you up on if she sees you on the phone, man, just scrolling, doing the scroll?
You should have seen how hard it was for us to get that into our house. We got a little hallway that we tried to fit it into, and we had to tear the thing down to nothing and twist and turn. I think it took 2 hours to get it in there.
You're kidding?
Yeah, it was.
What?
It was way. Dude, we're in an apartment. It was way more difficult than you think. So I think now, because I put her through all of that, if she doesn't see me use it properly in the next couple of weeks,
you're gonna get the cold shoulder.
Yeah, she'll probably throw me under it. So
yeah. That reminds me of a story. I bought a house when I lived in Rockhampton, and I ended up selling it. And I lost 10 grand on it. It's another story.
Oh, look, we've all been there.
Yeah. So I bought this amazing couch as well when I moved in there, because I had this big, sick, open lounge room, and I was like, I'm going to get like the big cinema experience in this room.
Of course, yeah.
And I bought this big couch, but it was real deep. The couch was real deep.
Right.
And so it was wide.
Yeah.
And everything about it was large.
Yeah.
It just didn't fit through the door.
Yep.
So I ended up, and my mum and dad laughed their ass off about this story all the time, because I'd completely forgotten about it. I had like blanked it out of my memory. Yeah. They remember it.
They always remember.
Yep. They drag it up a lot. We had to take all the doors off the hinges. Yep. We tried every possible combination, different angles, every different way we could try and get this door. And then we ended up having to take both doors off the hinges just to get this thing in, man.
I'm Sparky by trade.
Yep.
I would have tried to take some roof sheets off and sneak it in that way.
We considered taking the windows out at one point and putting it in through the windows.
The dedication you have to gaming and couches, man, is above and beyond.
Yeah. Anyway, what have you been listening to this week, man? What's the latest in Dougie's playlist?
It's no secret to you that I'm a massive E-Tid fan. Every time I die,
very good.
Buffalo band. So I had the pleasure of going over and seeing those guys before the world exploded. I went to Buffalo, their hometown, saw their Christmas show.
Where they have the key to the city?
They have the key to the city in Buffalo, exactly right. They're a massive tourist attraction in Buffalo. So, 10, 12 years of my life, I'm like, I'm going to get there. I'm going to go to this fabled Christmas show.
Yep.
And I finally got over there, and we had a great couple of nights. We watched Andy wrestle.
Yes.
That was in the Butcher and the Blade. Yep. Saw a whole bunch of really awesome bands over there. I got to see You Space Cowboy, which are like a new sort of metalcore band. Like sort of scramsy kind of band. Really like those guys.
Yep. Play a lot of them on
Got
the
to see who was the other one that I saw was Cave In, which was like a bucket list for me as well.
Amazing.
But yeah, so the new E-Tid album, I've been like, yep, sweet, it's going to come out soon. We got back to Australia, pandemic hit, everyone postponed a lot of their releases, especially those guys. They're a live touring band, the way they see it. So
to go on a release cycle means to also at the tail end of it, they tour it.
Yeah.
And
it's a huge part of it.
That changes their plans in a big, big way.
They're a heavy touring band as well. They're really out there all the time. So I've had a few songs that they've released that I've been cycling through, and one of them's AWOL, and it's the latest one they released.
Yep.
And man, I don't even know really what to say about it. It's like it's a very catchy, upbeat one for them. Like it's not a radio friendly sort of thing, but it's.
I mean, there's not much of their catalog that is like traditionally radio friendly.
No. I mean, like on the last album, they had Brendan Urie from Panic at the Disco on one of their songs. It's the only song they've got with no screaming on it.
Yep.
And it was actually pretty, not commercial radio friendly, but like it's a good gateway for a lot of people.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay, yeah. Not in that like, you're not actually saying this would go well on radio. You're saying if you're not into like super heavy screamy stuff, this could be your gateway into it. Yeah,
Definitely.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because there's a whole bunch of ETID you wouldn't do that. There's the famous Bored Stiff they had back in the day, their Absolute Circle Pit song that's hey there girls, I'm a crash hot guy.
Most of ETID's stuff, if I could think of like an adjective for it, it's probably abrasive.
Yeah, that
would be my word for it.
Yeah, and it's
really tough stuff. It's like
in a lot of ways, but then also there's a little bit of sweetness sprinkled into it. So
because they are like, and without bragging a little too much, but like I've met two of the guys from the band, and interviewed them at Unify, and genuinely two of the loveliest blokes I've ever met,
dude. There's some of the nicest guys in hardcore. They really
without doubt.
Dude, Andy is like 6'5", and he talks like this, and he's such an unassuming, lovely, gentle giant of a man.
He absolutely is, and like you said, he wrestles and
it's gentle giant of a man, but he's also the butcher.
My God, man, his list of injuries.
Oh yeah,
he listed them off in the interview.
Yep,
starting from his feet up. He just like started listing from the feet up and just kept going.
Yeah, he's held together with gaff tape.
It really is. It really is. Like, long haul flights for him must be hell.
Yeah.
Because like being cramped up and all that sort of stuff with things wrong with his knees, hips, toes.
He's tall man from The Simpsons. Tall man with a small car.
Are you making light of my size? This is the only car I could afford.
Except Andy wouldn't say it like that.
Yeah.
Are you making fun of my size? I love him.
Yeah. God, that's one of the rare Simpsons moments that I remember.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up really on The Simpsons. So.
Look, me neither, but it was, we were talking about this the other day about how there are so many movies that I'd never seen growing up. My parents would pull the trick on me. If they didn't want to watch a movie, they'd tell me, oh, no, you've seen that before. You don't want to see that. And trick me as a kid that like, oh, no, you don't want to watch that. But the little bit of The Simpsons I managed to sneak in around the news gave me all this pop culture reference that slowly over time you watch a movie and you go, that's a Simpsons reference.
No, The Simpsons are referencing the movie.
Yeah.
Oh.
Cape Fear was the one that got me.
Did we talk about this in the last podcast or just
no, not the
last talk about
No,
this?
we just talk a lot.
Oh, yeah, right.
No, the Cape Fear one got me because that's the Sideshow Bob episode with the HMAS Pinafore and everything and all of the boat stuff. And then I watched Cape Fear and I was like, this is a lot like The Simpsons. Yeah, I'm a dickhead. But yeah, look, Will Putney's producing their new album and I can't wait because he did Low Teens as well and that was amazing. Yep. If you look at his laundry list as a producer,
there's a lot to argue there that he's probably like the producer, like he's the sound of sort of more contemporary hardcore.
Yeah.
There's a lot to argue there for that being the case.
Yeah,
in the same way, there's like a guy called Lance Prince in Australia. He's like very much like the sound of him and like Sonny True Love.
Right.
Are like the sound of like metalcore in Australia.
Yeah.
Like, and like some other up and coming producers and whatever as well. But like those for the last 10 years or so, like they're the guys. Well, the producers,
And also Putney did Amity's last few releases as
Gotcha.
well and everything. So
love them or hate them, the production on those is immaculate. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely one of those things for me where if there's one thing that Amity has been consistent with, it's every release is like they make sure that they do it as best as they can. Like there's some bands you see they sort of like their budget and their taste change, and so they flip flop around everywhere. But like Amity's just been, they found Putney, he's doing them a solid, and they know they know they're on a good thing.
That's a really interesting like it must be as a band, like once you've got a couple of albums under your belt that have really like resonated with people, and you've built a fan base around you based on those sounds.
Yep.
That must be a hard conversation to have coming into like the next album. Because like I always think back to like Carnival and, using Forrester for at least The Martyr and Sound Awake.
Yeah.
And then going into Asymmetry. And Foz might have been involved in the EP. I've never looked into the production of that one.
Right.
But I assume maybe he was.
Yeah.
And I know Drew from the band is always really involved in it as well. But making the decision to move away from Foz and into a different type of sound, different type of production for Asymmetry must have been an interesting, because they easily could have gone with Foz again.
Yeah.
It's a tried and true formula. But then to go, no, we're not going to this time. Producer of Asymmetry's name escapes me right now. It's on the tip of my tongue. But he had produced for like Incubus and Raging Against the Machine, and
so they knew they were in good hands.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. And that producer was moving to Byron Bay,
right,
or Australia at that point, and then to choose to like go in a different direction on that, it must have been a like we've done plenty with Foz. We're gonna, this is me speaking for the band. I don't know this story at all.
Yeah,
but like that conversation must have happened where they go, do we go in a different direction or do we stay with what we know? And I think it was actually the right move, even though like people have their reservations about Asymmetry. Like they, it's had to grow on people. Let's say that.
Yeah,
I still think it was absolutely the right move to try something different.
Yeah,
because there is that danger of becoming quite stagnant and like just stuck in that cycle, right?
And it works out really well for some. Others get Saint Anger.
Hey, I'm certain last week. No, I didn't. I was on another podcast, Doug. I was cheating. Right. I was cheating on you.
You motherfucker.
Where I talked about how I actually really like Saint Anger.
The production or the music?
No, not the production, but the music. Yeah. Because I don't know if you know, there's a version of it. Someone went through and reproduced the entire album and changed all the drum sounds.
Right. Yep.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I was on a bent for a little while listening to old Meshuggah that had been remastered. Right. So like
remastered or
remixed, but just by fans on YouTube.
Yeah.
So people had gone through and taken like New Millennium Cyanide Christ and gave it a bit of a bass boost and a bit of a sheen and stuff like that, because it's an interesting, I do like the production on that record, but it is like very like a claustrophobic and kind of cold. And so when you hear the bass boosted up and stuff, it makes it sound a bit more modern, but it's a taste thing as opposed to like the re-release of And Justice for All that was necessary.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that the one where they put in bass because they had removed Cliff out of the mix?
No, it wasn't Cliff. It was Newstead, because that was the first album after Newstead. And what they did,
I know why I'm thinking that.
They didn't like him, so they pushed it down in the mix, and so it was just one big scoop fest, basically.
Right. I'm thinking of Cliff 'em all, Kill 'em all.
Right. Of course. Yeah. What's your song?
It's very appropriate that we are talking about Metallica,
right?
Because I'm actually going to talk about the Miley Cyrus cover
of
Nothing Else Matters. that just got released. And I mean, that came with the announcement of like the 30-year anniversary of the Black Album.
Of course, yeah.
And the
one of their lesser known ones.
And also they're releasing a 7 LP box set,
right,
with 53 different artists covering tracks from the Black Album.
Right.
And the Miley Cyrus one's the first one.
So I wonder how much of that goes in their pocket.
Well, it's all released under the Blackened Recordings.
Yeah.
And I assume they paid for all the production and everything on there.
Yeah, true.
Because a lot of it is like in their studios and in, but yeah, so this track, it's Miley Cyrus singing it.
Right.
Elton John on keys. Yo-Yo Ma on cello. Yo-Yo Ma. Right? So Yo-Yo Ma. Some dude named Watt playing like W-A-T-T.
Okay.
Playing guitar. I don't know who he is. But then Chad Smith from the Chili Peppers playing drums.
Yeah.
Which like not ever would have picked that combination of musos to play on anything ever.
Not that combination, but I would say that Chad Smith, I think, is like the sort of stepbrother,
the catch-all.
The stepbrother to Lars Ulrich, if you really think about it, because he's
in
like
style.
I wouldn't have thought so. No, not in style.
Okay.
But what I mean is in terms of like zeitgeist of like there's of famous drummers that are famous for holding it down as opposed to going nuts.
Well, I don't know, man. Chad can play.
Oh, he can
absolutely can play,
but. There's can play and does play are two different things. There's plenty of drummers out there that are like, this band is my band. And I am front man. Yeah.
And Rob Trujillo from Metallica on bass, right?
Yeah, okay.
But man, and in a world where like Miley Cyrus covering Metallica could have been an absolute disaster.
They picked the right era.
They did, but also like, Christ, it's good.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've heard it or not.
No, I got about halfway through it. I was just listening on the way home.
I mean, it's a long song.
Yeah, well,
it's like a 6 or 7 minute song as it is.
The beats. I wanted to get the like. Let's see. This is the intro part. I want the chorus sort of thing. I want to get the beats of it and stuff. Yeah. But I'll listen to it again. Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, and like I think what I love most about it is that you basically get Miley Cyrus channeling Stevie Nicks covering Metallica.
Yes.
And I'm just like, oh, that hits me in my nostalgia.
That smoky voice now. Yeah. She's
and she does like a few little things, like she'll change the phrasing of the lyrics as well. She'll like hold off and like sing a little run very quickly rather than
a little bit of creative license.
Yeah, she'll hold on a thing before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's...
this is how you should have done it, James.
I don't know if that'd fly, but yeah, like it's... Like, I think I said it last week. I just think like any cover that's done, I think really needs to hold... Like, you can change it entirely as long as it holds the spirit of the original song.
Yeah.
And this absolutely does. Like, the fact that it's like basically officially... licensed by Metallica and, contains a Metallica member on it, and albeit not an original, but then some like absolutely world-class musicians on the instruments. You're just like, man, this is so well done.
Makes you wonder whether, and I'd never really like Guitar Hero. I don't follow it. I don't know if it's still going, but if it is still going, it would make you wonder whether that would justify one of those songs making it back on to a Guitar Hero because they've changed it. Because I always found with it that I think Dragon Force has had 3 appearances. We were talking about this, weren't we? 3 appearances on Guitar Hero because of trivia.
That was it.
And it just makes you wonder, why would you need another reason than that? They're like, okay, well, let's make people play Nothing Else Matters, but with Miley Cyrus singing over it because let's be real, Guitar Hero is a steaming pile of shit anyway. So,
But how was that the case though? Because there's so many versions of it. Like it sold its ass off.
Yeah, no. But what I'm saying is that it's, who cares? If you're the executive
Yeah.
of Guitar Hero, you're like, oh, this song's relevant again now because Miley Cyrus has sung it. Let's just chuck it on the thing because people will want to play it.
Maybe.
Yeah, this is showing my utmost respect for Guitar Hero and
I suspect it's much more to do with licensing costs.
yeah. It's very true.
Yeah, but
you got a movie, champ?
yeah, I've for those who don't know, I'm like traditionally I've been a massive James Bond fan for like since I was about 12 years old.
I had a hardcover book that had all of the gadgets and everything in it, so I'm right there with you.
Cool. So when I was 12 or so, I used to, might have been closer to 13, I would say. My first job was pushing trolleys.
Right.
And I did that from 13 all the way through to 19. And
you were 1 year short of long service.
But anyway, so I used to, in the trolleys, people used to just leave their receipts in the, and I don't know if you remember shopper dockets.
Yes. Yeah, that was
But there was
immediately what I thought.
always Video Easy vouchers on the back of those receipts, right?
Were always Video Easy vouchers.
So I got really stuck into the 5 for $5, 5 weeklies for $5 VHS deals. And
The Lord of the VHS deals.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so the first one that I hired was A View to a Kill, which is Roger Moore, Grace. I think maybe it even came up last week. I think we talked about it last week.
We talked about how old Rog was looking a bit long in the tooth. Yeah.
So that actually got me thinking about like Roger Moore.
Right.
And I went back this week and I watched The Man with the Golden Gun, which with traditionally my most hated James Bond film. I can't stand it.
It wasn't my favourite either, yeah.
Can't stand it. But I was like, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot. And the other thing that prompted this was in my Facebook feed the other day came up a video, an interview on like old British TV of Christopher Lee being interviewed by Terry Wogan, who I don't know if you know who Terry Wogan is, but he's like a famous old, you know, imagine like Graham Norton now, but
yeah, of course. Yeah,
same sort of show, right? And Christopher Lee's on there. And man, I don't know if you know, but Christopher Lee is the cousin of Ian Fleming, who invented James Bond.
Yes. Okay.
Christopher Lee is actually the archetype for James Bond.
Get fucked.
He was an intelligence officer in the British Army. He was a cousin of...
Yeah. This motherfucker's got a resume as tall as himself.
This man killed people in the war, you know, and like, I don't know if did you ever hear about that whole thing? It was like Peter Jackson was directing him on Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And there must be a scene where he stabs someone in the back. And he goes like, you know, do it like this or whatever it is. And Christopher Lee was like, Peter, I have stabbed people in, you know, I have heard the breath leave their lungs. You know, like, leave me alone. I will do this. Like,
Don't tell me how to suck eggs.
Yeah. I know what I'm doing. I have killed people with a knife. You know what I mean? So yeah, like, dude, he was
on your champ.
Yeah.
Right. No worries.
As
loud and clear.
Yep. As you wish. Off you go. So I saw this interview, and in the interview, they sort of, and media must have just forever and a day just been, you know, always trying to drag out spoilers and tidbits of info from these movies all the way along, because he's trying to get him to talk about what happens in the movies. Like, I can't, but I can show you. And he pulls out the golden gun, and he's got one of the props from the movie, and he's like, I can show you this. And it was really cool. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm gonna go back and watch that one.
Yeah.
Still as bad. Still terrible.
It's still bad. It's terrible. Yeah. Look, Roger Moore was not the best era as far as I'm concerned. There was a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
But and you know, I'm pretty biased, but I think the best era was the Pierce Brosnan era. But like, everything prior to Die Another Day because because it still had lots of practical effects. It still had that sort of cinematic feel to it, and it was a bit tongue in cheek, but it wasn't like a clown show.
Yeah, do you know what it was, man? I think Pierce Brosnan, for the most part, really was the sum of the parts that came before it.
He's a cool motherfucker.
Yeah, he really is, and you know, he had the swagger of Connery. He had, you know, the sort of the dry wit of Roger Moore. You know, he could be a little bit more violent like a Timothy Dalton.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, I don't want to leave out George Lazenby here, but, you know, he kind of had the looks of George Lazenby, you know? He sort of had that sort of rugged look to him as well.
I mean, you could leave out George Lazenby. No one's going to fight you on that.
I love On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Good movie, but I mean, you know.
I put it to you, that Connery could not have played Bond in that film.
Right.
I would not have believed Sean Connery falling in love and getting married in that movie.
Yeah, that's
He was
fair.
not that character.
Yeah, no, he's much more of a backhander. Yeah.
And did.
and
did.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about how it's problematic to be a James Bond fan.
That I had this very conversation not that long ago. So my business partner, Stephen, he's also a big James Bond fan. And we were talking about it. And I was basically saying, like, you know, all of those old, like, they're making a real effort with these new films to make Bond, the Bond you know, but also just like weeding out all of that, like, problematic stuff, right? Like, without like watering the character right down.
He doesn't have to be a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be effective at his job, right?
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. And, you know, unless it calls for it. But
all the killing and stuff is a bit dickish of him. Yeah.
But where was I going with this? Oh, yeah. So we were talking about it, and he was just going like, no, you know, I love it. And, you know, blah, blah, and, you know, I was really, you know, PC culture and, you know, blah, 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 trying to shut it down. I was like, dude, no one's trying to take it away from you.
Yeah.
You absolutely can go watch those films and you can enjoy them on your own time.
Those movies have been made.
But, like, there's very little to defend from a 2021 perspective. There's no defending, like, in The Man with the Golden Gun, like, Roger Moore slaps the shit out of Maud Adams. And it's like, there's no need for that. Like, he didn't need to do it. And it wouldn't be included in 2021.
Yeah, you're not going to get on the hashtag bring back the backhand.
No, God, no. And so it's sort of like, it's also acknowledging, you just got to acknowledge, I think, that I enjoyed those films when I watched them the first time and I still enjoy them now, but there are some things about it that I don't like, and I'm not going to set out to try and change your mind on it or defend the film. Like, it is what it was, and, you know, just don't go out being such a big vocal defender of the films. It's like, okay, I watched them, I enjoyed them, I can see that there's problems with it, but yeah, like, if you get called out on like, oh, but what about all of the violence against women? It's like, yeah, don't be like, oh, well, you know.
But when it comes to watching the old movies, it doesn't matter, because what matters is things change, like kids get educated, all that stuff matters. So you can go back and watch the old James Bond movies, that's fine. But if you're on the hashtag bring back the backhand, that's what a James Bond is.
Yeah, yeah.
That's where the difference lies. Yeah. You know, you shouldn't feel bad about going back and watching those movies. You just have to watch them through the lens of knowing, you know, that's the way it was, but it's not the way it is.
Yeah. And I think that's the difference is like, just getting you back up over it if it gets called out. It's like, what does that say about you if you're defending that? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's the...
Yeah, and if someone wants to pick a fight with you over you watching the old movies, in the end, it doesn't matter. Because they're out there, they're accessible to everyone.
And have been for 40 years.
And, you know, if you look at it from the point of view of, you know, well, if something bad happened in history, well, you're not going to talk about it? No, you talk about it, so you learn about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's that thing. It's we don't ignore the bad shit that's come before us. So, just you acknowledge it, move on.
Yeah, and I think that's what the filmmakers have done. Like, if you look over the years, like of where it's gone, and like it's reflected the time that it was in.
And they often give a nod to the past as well of what had come before, but now what they're doing now. There's usually a nod to like, this is something he would have done, but now he's not.
Literally, like at the start of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, I don't know if you remember, but like at the end of the pre-credit sequence, like George Lazenby looks straight down the barrel of the camera and he's like, this never happened to the other fellow. And it's just like, that's literally it. It's just like, we've moved on. Wouldn't have happened. Wouldn't have happened to the other fellow.
I was so close so many times when I was a teenager to just go and buying the box set of all of the movies, and I kept holding off because by the time I had the money to, it was almost time for the next movie to come out.
And so then another box set
and then I'd wait, and then I'd wait, and I realised the futility of actually buying the box set. So, yeah.
I mean, I have them all, but I never bought the box set.
Yeah.
I bought them one by one.
So tempting to do. Oh, it's so tempting to do, but no, not for me.
Yeah.
So what I watched
here we go.
last week on my own, I watched the new Bo Burnham special, Inside.
Oh, yep.
Right.
I'm not taking that in yet.
It's a bit of an existential bop is what I've heard people call it. It's very pandemic focused.
Yeah, okay.
But not specifically on the pandemic, but it's like, so the whole thing's filmed obviously inside. He's got one room, he's got all his lights and everything set up, and it's this very meta feeling special where the through line of it is he was having anxiety attacks when he was performing about 5 years ago. He was having anxiety attacks on stage, and so he decided...
And he pushed through them and managed to finish his show.
He'd get out on stage and realise he was having a panic attack, but he had to finish the show. And he said it was almost like an out-of-body experience because he was on autopilot.
It's brutal.
His body was delivering the show and he was trapped watching himself do it. It was that kind of, I know that I'm panicked on the inside, but these people paid for the show. I've got to deliver it. So he took about 5 years off.
Did he ever break character and just go like, guys, I'm freaking out up here.
He said he's talked to people about it, and it was not an obvious thing to the audience because he knew his stuff so well. He's an extremely rehearsed and well thought out performer, and so people wouldn't actually notice. And his stuff is so like I don't think you've seen too much of it.
Not too much of it. No,
he's kind of like Weird Al in the sense that he's very snappy. Everything's very quick.
Musical?
Musical comedy.
Right, okay.
So very snappy and quick sort of songs. But then when he does his talking,
so is it similar to like a Tim Minchin kind of thing?
It's very like Tim Minchin. Yeah.
Cool.
But everything is very, even the little sort of mistakes or like nods to the audience he makes when he's doing the show. Everything is written to be exactly that way. So he would have been fine with that. But so where he's got to at the start of 2020 was he said, I've worked on my mental health. I've got myself into a better place. And I thought, I really need to get out there and start performing to people again. I want to get back out on stage. And then the funniest thing happened. So what he's done is he's got this little granny flat out the back and he set up all the lights and everything in there and he's filmed himself making music videos and in between sketches and stuff like that in one room. And there's songs about like sexting because you're stuck in home and you can't go places. There's also the classic white band comedy sort of song. So it's a musical thing at the start about, what do we do now that we're stuck inside and, who can help and heal the world? Let's heal the world with comedy.
Gal Gadot.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Bit of a nod to that. But yeah, look, there's just some stuff in there that's really, really grim, but with a sarcastic face on. Yeah, and it's just he's released an album with it as well, and I've been listening to the songs on loop. They're just really catchy and super good. But it's watching the special. It's what he's done with lighting and the way he set up cameras.
Did he do it all himself?
Did it all himself.
Wow.
He did all the lighting, all of the filming and directing and wrote it all, and it took him a year. So over the course of the special, his hair gets longer, his beard gets longer.
Right.
It's it's pretty wild. You have to check it out.
Frankly, I mean that without having seen it, that kind of sounds like it's the kind of thing that it's going to be up for like an Emmy. Like
I think
like
so.
best musical kind of thing, you know?
It's
or best comedy act.
He's getting a lot of it's turning a lot of heads. There's a lot of people relating to it because it's not that it's so focused on it all being about the pandemic, but it's just about all of the...
It reflects people's experiences.
Yeah, there's things that aren't being directly said that are very clearly mirroring what's happening.
Yeah.
And there's... My favorite part of production he did for the whole thing is right at the start. He does a song about content. About I made
content.
If someone told me I was going to be stuck inside a year ago, I would have told them to fuck off. Basically, was the start of the song. And he goes, "But it's all right because I've made you some content." And he's got a headlamp on. And he's sitting on a chair and he's singing and he's got a headlamp on and he puts the headlamp up and there's a disco ball quite like this one over here and it shines on there and spins and I made you some content and there's just spinning lights and everything and it really is the perfect way to like set the mood. So yeah.
Nice.
You'll have to check it out, man.
Yeah, I think so. I think so my girlfriend Jill's very much into musicals.
Yes.
And musical comedy and that sort of stuff. But yeah, we haven't got around to it yet. I suggested it at one point and she sort of indicated that she was like, I'm going to need to be in the right headspace to watch that one.
It's a very claustrophobic watch, yeah. And it's about an hour and a half long, which is an interesting thing because Netflix at the moment, a lot of comedians are getting the feedback from Netflix at the moment that if someone puts on an hour-long comedy special, it's only the first 15 minutes of the special that people actually watch.
Really?
In a lot of cases, yeah.
That's not at all my... I watch a whole thing, but
no. But so the way people are consuming content now, you know, you're more likely to get a couple of the good jokes and put them up on YouTube or on Instagram or something, and get people's interest like that to get them in.
Yep.
And so, in a similar way, with a comedy special, if they watch the first 15 minutes and it's really good, they might stick around. But if they watch the first 15 minutes, normally a comedy special takes 15 minutes to get off the ground.
Yeah.
So a guy like Bert Kreischer has actually been changing the way he writes a comedy special. He puts the best stories in the first 15 minutes.
You gotta bring it home with a real...
It's a hard
with
balance.
A real banger, though.
But if all anyone ever watches is the first 15 minutes, they got all the good shit.
Yeah.
But it's a hard slog for a whole thing. His special was an hour and a half.
The best comedians that I really love watching are the ones that they can circle back on a joke.
A
callback. And like they might finish the show on that callback that they might have said in the first 5 minutes.
Will Anderson.
And I think if you only watch the first 15 minutes, you're going to miss the biggest banger of a joke.
But so
because you don't get that callback.
But see, we've talked about this a lot, Tim. Thanks,
Doug. Thank you, Douglas.
When do you change? When do you change? Basically, you know, some of our favorite comedy specials are an hour long. There's callbacks and everything. They go for an hour, but why don't they go for 2 hours?
Some of the best ones I think do. And again, we need to probably talk about how like these are products of their time as well.
Yep.
Eddie Murphy's Delirious and Raw.
Yep.
They're both 2 hour long comedy specials.
Yes, but if people are only going to watch, if the way that the consumption of the content is moving is that people only want to watch 15 minutes from the point of view of a comedian, where is the draw to do an hour long special when you know that people, you know, when do you decide to adapt and change the way you do things for the audience?
I would say that comes with demand.
Mm.
It makes it, what you're saying makes a lot of sense. Actually, a lot of the stand-up comedy specials that are getting put up on things like Netflix and Stan and all of those places, especially with the ones where they're focused on like up and comers, it'll be like a series.
Yes.
And there'll be like 12 episodes and each one's a different comedian, but it'll be there'll be 15-minute blocks or 20-minute blocks.
In the same way there's still
it's like a highlight reel for them. It's almost like a promo reel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everything's a promo reel now, Tim, isn't it? Everything's a promo reel.
But I actually like the way Netflix markets their comedy as well, because I don't know if you've seen it, but the Facebook page that markets like the stand-up comedy side of Netflix is actually called Netflix is a Joke.
Yeah.
And I just love that because it's like this, it's almost like an anti-Netflix sentiment by saying Netflix is a joke.
Yeah.
And so you almost like, you'd like it even if you'd think that was maybe an anti-Netflix thing, and then you're getting marketed Netflix stuff too.
It did catch me off guard the first time I saw that. And I was like,
are they taking the piss out of Dave Chappelle? What is this? Oh, no, it's just a promo thing. Oh, right. Okay. That's great.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, no, and there's a lot of comedians that are releasing on YouTube now as well. You know, the reality is when a comedian goes to do a special, not all of them are going to get an offer from the channel that they're going to be on to do it. Some of them go out of their own pocket and they film everything themselves. They do all the production of it, and then they take the finished product and they shop it around, you know?
Yeah.
And so there's like Mark Normand is a comedian at the moment who's kind of like a neo Jerry Seinfeld.
Okay.
Right?
What's his name again?
Mark Normand.
Okay.
I'll send you a link later on. You're going to like this. But so imagine if Jerry Seinfeld's like swore and was a bit edgier, but it was all the same tone and the same sort of delivery and pace, and you know what I mean?
See, maybe I won't like him because that's why I like Jerry, is he manages to be so angry without swearing.
Right, so you're more about the content than the demeanor.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I think he's one of the smartest human beings ever.
I still think you'll like this guy.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
But what he's done is he shopped it around. No one wanted to buy it. And it's great. His comedy special is really good, but he shopped it around at a time when no one was looking for another white guy.
Yeah.
That's, you know,
fair enough.
Kind of aping Jerry Seinfeld, but that's just because that's who he is.
Yeah.
And
do you know what though? Like that's the very advice I give to a lot of bands that have shopped their record around to labels and all of that sort of stuff to try and put it out. It's like, put it out yourself, like, and go hard on it. Like, go your hardest.
Release independently.
You know, do the best job marketing and with like your content as possible, like your film clips and your, you know, on the budget that you have, and be clever about it and do something a little bit different, and you know, embrace the fact that you have pretty heavy control over everything that you do.
Yep.
Rather than like get involved in like. And this isn't an anti-label sentiment, but like, you know, obviously this isn't the right time. People aren't interested in what you're doing. Go out and prove why. Then the next record, you might actually go, you know what? Why would we give away X percent of our royalties when we know what's involved in putting a record out now? And maybe you can hold the power a little longer. You know what I mean? Like and I think that's the same sort of thing. It's who go out and prove the product.
The old model was to go and secure a bunch of money, get a loan essentially to do it, whereas now it's the independent release is technically a harder thing to do because a lot of the time you're doing it all off your own back, but then the rewards all come back to you as well.
1,000%.
And you're not beholden. The thing that draws me to podcasting is
doing a lot of fourth wall breaking here tonight. I like it.
Oh, sorry. Are we just supposed to be talking to each other? Are we pretending? Dance like no one's watching, Tim.
Oh.
Yeah. No.
Cracking song by the band Jericho. Dance like no one's watching.
Oh, really?
Shout out to my mate Roy Amar.
Yeah. What's with this? There's no camera here. Who are you talking to?
This is just, we're just talking to these all the time.
Get it together, mate. Yeah, I just walk around with one of these all the time, especially in the valley. You got to have something to defend yourself. So
mine's no good. It's got a a windsock on it.
No. That's so it doesn't leave a mark. That's why.
Never start with the head. Victim gets a little fuzzy.
Well, I guess that brings us to a chat then, I think. Oh. Because we're kind of already chatting.
I thought we were already there.
This you've given me an impromptu chat topic.
Sick.
I was watching a video about waterboarding the other day.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Man, I hope you weren't like, dude, that is going in.
So
like,
I'm pro waterboarding.
ASIO now has you flagged.
I'm on a list.
You're on a watch list.
Yeah, because they follow the podcast. They've been waiting for me to slip up.
Oh my God.
I was
What?
watching this video about waterboarding and how it used to be back in like the Middle Ages. Well, no, it was the Spanish Inquisition.
No one expects it.
Yeah, no one ever expects it.
Yeah.
Spanish Inquisition, what was happening was there was starting to be a bit of a revolution because they were going through and they were, beating up all these civilians and these peasants and stuff and then sending them back out into the community.
Yeah.
And when they come back out bloodied and broken and their fingernails missing and shit like that,
that's a strategy.
People going, wait, am I next? What's going on? Like, ugh. And so what they decided to do was they came up, they thought it up because they're, inventors, that they would try and simulate drowning. But what they would do is they would just actually drown people by putting funnels in their mouths and pour water into their guts and wait till their belly's filled up with water and then punch them in the belly.
Oh,
and that
God.
kind of shit. Yeah.
That sounds horrible.
It was all very horrible. But so cut to hundreds of years later.
They've perfected it.
They've perfected it. It's evolved and we've refined it and everything. And we became into the, the golden age of
Fast
waterboarding.
forward to Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah. They really have it down to just a real art. It's
I'm worried about the intent of this.
Independent art. No, well, so the other thing that I was going to bring up, we were talking about the defending yourself.
Uh-huh.
Something that I remember hearing about in high school that just like terrified me was the phone book.
Yeah, I was going to say the police beating people up with the phone book.
So like put the phone book over
and
the guts or over the head or whatever like that. And just but I heard that it was a Russian thing originally, which really
Probably.
adds up.
Sounds about right.
I think someone brought it up to me because I'm Russian Ukrainian background and they're just like, oh, your granddad would have been the guy with the phone book and shit. And I was
so
just
racist.
But at the same time, I remember having that weird thing of like, I was like, oh, that sounds really awful, but also like, oh, yeah, that is a good idea for that, isn't it? And it's just, you watch movies, all these horror movies where someone's job is to come up with these horrible things to do to people.
But I mean, they're often pulling those things out of history.
Yeah, true.
They're not necessarily coming up with them themselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, like history's often way more gruesome than anyone ever lets on.
Has a wealth of opportunities.
Yeah. I mean, like going back to what you said about how, when people would be interrogated and tortured and whatever and then sent back out into the community, the reason why they invented waterboarding was so that like people didn't know that when they were sent back out into the community they had been interrogated, right? But like I said, sometimes that was a strategy. Like when I was in Germany, I was over touring and playing in a band over in France and Spain and Germany.
Of course, yeah.
We visited Dachau, which is just outside of Munich.
Yes.
And Dachau was not a concentration camp, but it was a work camp.
Right.
And it was the place where the ovens, the big body disposal ovens were like the prototypes and were built and perfected there for Auschwitz, right?
The R&D department, yeah.
Yeah, horrible experience. And to go and see it is just gut-wrenching, see this place. But what they did, it wasn't a death camp as such. They didn't, in the early days of the Second World War, what they would do, and keep in mind also, Dachau is only about 1 mile out from Munich. It's very, very close.
Mm.
And so what they would, and a train would bring people out to the camp. They would target key people in the community, leaders, teachers, smart people, college professors, people that were respected in the community and people who would listen to their opinion, right?
Of course.
Leaders. They would pinpoint those people who were obviously going to be opposed to the way that the Nazis operated.
Yeah.
They would target them, bring them into this camp, break them spiritually, mentally, emotionally, just break them down, and then send them back into the community as like, this is what happens if you oppose us. So like, there are people that survived that experience, maybe never went back to that camp and like survived the war, who went through that but were let out. And I almost think that and the point of which was to just break the spirit of the community.
Fundamentally change them, yeah.
Just wear resistance down, like at any cost. And I think that is just the most brutal thing out like I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
It's just programmatic destruction of the human spirit. And that is just disgusting to me.
Well, that's part of the reason too, like, bit of a tangent, but part of the reason why like movies that are that are horror movies but that focus on the psychological torture sort of thing are often way more
than anything that's just quite gruesome and gory.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I just got through a couple of seasons of Hannibal. And
that's funny. I went to the character of Hannibal Lecter too. I was thinking of have you seen like the version of Red Dragon that has like Ralph Fiennes?
I haven't seen the whole thing. It's still on my list of things. So I get the laundry list of things I got to watch.
Funny, we both went to Hannibal Lecter there.
Yeah. Well, watching the TV show, the one with
Mads Mikkelsen.
So the interesting thing about, because I was wondering, how do they get a few seasons out of what is largely one book? Like the particular one that they were focusing on.
Which one do they focus on?
I think it was Red Dragon, the one with the detective. Is that?
No, I don't know.
Yeah,
anyway.
So the one with Edward Norton in it.
Oh, yeah, that is Red Dragon.
Yeah. So Red Dragon is what the TV show is based on, but it's a very long-winded way of that.
Are they seeking like a dude that has like a big like demon tattoo on his back?
I don't know. I don't think he's part of it. So it's just
because that one's a prequel to. I think the book is a prequel to
Silence of the Lambs. Yeah,
but the movie itself, because of the popularity of like Clarice Starling, they made it into a sequel.
Of course, they went straight to that. Yeah. So the TV show is Hannibal Lecter meeting with the detective who I cannot remember the name of because I binged it and then walked away. Yeah, as you do, and it's all about Hannibal Lecter sort of like befriending him, and no one knows obviously who Hannibal Lecter is at that point. He's just a practicing psychologist.
Yeah.
Or psychiatrist rather, and he's working with the FBI, helping them solve cases as a consultant. Yep. And so is technically the detective was a detective, and then he had a bit of a mental breakdown, and so he's a professor that they get to consult as well.
Gotcha.
So they're working together, but over the course of a couple of seasons, the whole story of the show is Hannibal Lecter slowly befriending and getting into the mind of this professor and just slowly trying to turn him and really like playing with his mind. And there's some gory stuff, there's some murders, there's all kinds of stuff. But
is he into cannibalism the whole way through, or does he come to it? Does he discover it during the show?
Every episode they find a way to fit in a meal that he's made, either just for himself or for the detectives that come over for dinner. So everyone that's been to his house has eaten somebody. Or maybe even somebody they know.
Whoa.
Yeah,
and that's right from the start.
Right from the start.
That's not it's not about him discovering cannibalism.
No. He's already well established at that point. It's the psychological element of that show, of the way that he plays with the mind and everything, because he is a psych. Yeah. That is really unsettling and does sort of like remind me of like what you were speaking about how it can be somehow more effective to leave someone unscathed physically, but just totally burrow into their brain. It's a whole different thing. And phone books don't do the same thing.
I've just realized as well that I have mistakenly said about Red Dragon. Red Dragon has Ed Norton in it. It is a prequel.
Yes.
I was thinking of Hannibal, the sequel, which has Julianne Moore
Yes.
as Clarice Starling. Gillian Anderson was meant to play Clarice
Oh, really?
in that, except that her X-Files contract said she couldn't play an FBI agent in anything else.
Right.
Yeah. And for a similar reason, Pierce Brosnan was contracted to take over James Bond as of The Living Daylights, except he was playing Remington Steele and couldn't wear a tux in anything. The James Bond contract says you can't wear a tux in anything else.
Never the two shall meet, yes.
Yeah, so hence why they had to really change the costuming for... Did you ever see the Thomas Crown Affair?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Cracking flick.
Yep.
But watch that, not once does he ever wear a tux.
Wow.
In a lot of scenes where a lot of other people are, but they change his character so he's like very like subversive. He doesn't...
What a specific caveat for...
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So he had taken it, and then as soon as the Remington Steele thing, the show, they were about to can it, and then he got cast as James Bond. It reignited interest in him, so the contract they re-signed him for another 2 seasons of Remington Steele. Timothy Dalton got it.
Right.
The next season of Remington Steele started, cancelled within like 3 episodes or so because it was just rubbish.
Because it was it
was a flop.
Peak and a trough.
Yeah. And so he could have taken over the role. And then there was like the biggest gap between 2 Bond films was 6 years, 89 to 95 was the biggest gap there had been.
While they were trying to rejig it.
And Timothy Dalton was actually contracted to do GoldenEye up to a certain point, and then eventually he's like, I'm not interested in this anymore. And because he was like, because you mucked me around, you kept me on contract, I couldn't take any other work or very much other work because, you know, I think the only thing he did in that time was like, he was the bad guy in a movie called The Rocketeer.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And a movie called Brenda Starr. There's not a lot that he did in that time.
Yeah, no, they're both crackers, those ones, definitely.
The Rocketeer's a banger.
I watch them
Go back
weekly.
and rewatch it.
I haven't actually ever seen it.
Directed by Joe Johnston, who was like Steven Spielberg's like second AD director.
Okay.
And went on to direct, and he worked on a lot of the Indiana Jones movies and stuff, which fits for The Rocketeer, and went on to direct Captain America.
Just that little thing that... What was the name of that company that makes that?
Yeah, Marvel.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah, sweet. Sorry.
So it's good flick.
There you go. Well, it reminds me as well what I was going to say about podcasting earlier and about being on the hook for contracts and stuff.
Yeah.
The thing that I am drawn to other podcasters' shows for, and, you know, the idea of doing it, and just generally from someone who is a fan of independent artists and stuff, you know, it's not the be all end all, but it works for a lot of people, is the fact that someone like, I watch a lot of Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer have Two Bears, One Cave, and they did the what would be your number to sell the podcast to a network.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You know, what would be your number?
What's the,
Yeah, and Tom Segura was like, well, I really enjoy doing this because we're doing exactly what we want, how we want to do it. We're all set up to do it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm really enjoying this. So my number would have to be like, you know, 50 million. And
that's not a lot, really, for people of that caliber. For like 50 million is it's a low bar actually for them.
Yeah, but so 50 million though for just a podcast, you know, with the numbers they've got, which are pretty good. But what he's saying is it would have to be 50 million like an episode.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
because like Spotify paid like 100 million to Joe Rogan.
Maybe not an episode. Yeah, but they're paying for the whole zeitgeist and everything. So it wouldn't have been an episode. But for him, it was like, my number would be, you'd have to give me $50 million to do it because I enjoy what I'm doing. And so if I have to do it for you and you're going to give me notes and everything, you've just turned it into something I hate.
Yeah.
So I'm going to clock in and clock out every day, but you got to you know, for the privilege of having me, you got to pay me that amount of money. But essentially what he's saying is, no, I would never sell it because it suits me to do it. Because what happens with people with pilots, he went through pilot seasons in Los Angeles, is you get on the hook for a pilot. They say, oh, we're going to write something. So you might be on the hook for 6 months while they bounce ideas around, try to write something, and then maybe nothing comes of it. 6 months you're out of the loop. Maybe something does come of it and you go and you film something, but then they sit on it for a while. It gets shopped around. You're on the hook for another 6 months. And there's some actors that careers probably failed because they spent 2 years in the pilot circuit and never got anywhere.
Well, I mean, you look at, you know, getting back to Jerry Seinfeld, like the figure that was thrown at all 4 of those actors per episode to do a season 10 through the roof.
Yeah.
And like, you know, it went out as the number 1 TV show on air.
The
like
Larry King interview.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, so you got cancelled. Larry, do you know who I am?
Yeah. It's the number 1 show on air.
You didn't get cancelled.
Yeah. So it, you know, like the number is like, he was just like, no, that at that point, it's like the satisfaction is gone from it. If it's just for that, then the satisfaction's gone. Same thing with Dave Chappelle. Like the number that was thrown at him was 50 million, I think, was to make the 3rd season of Chappelle's show.
And sometimes you just got to know when to end things.
Yeah. My man.